Hello, hello. I am Dr. Reverend Shawn Moore, and with me we have,
Jaira Miller.
and we are doing our live streaming podcast, I guess. Um, Therapy Unscripted. And so it's been a while. We've been together. We've had some very busy separate lives, but we're back to give you some of our own experience as it relates to just navigating life. No one here. I know I'm not. I can speak for myself and say I'm not an expert in life. Life happens to us, and we just kind of respond the best way we can. But yeah, this is us. And today's session is going to be on uh, changing cycles. I know here in so again, I'm here in Minnesota. Jerry, you aware?
I'm in Seattle.
So there's a difference in weather. Well, what's the weather out there where you're at?
It's starting to turn to fall, which is very, very disappointing to me, but quite normal for this area.
Yeah, so it's definitely hitting the fall for us. It's gotten a little colder, not colder, but it's no longer hitting 80s, 90s. We're not going to be in the 70s until the 60s, then the 50s, then the 40s, and the 30s. Then it'll be zero, then it'll be 20, 30, 40 below zero here in Minnesota. So we are on the down spiral of the warm weather.
Seattle gets to about the 30s, where you stopped at 30s, and then that's where we hover and then climb up again. Never quite as high as Minnesota and never quite as low either.
That sounds so wonderful. When I retire, I'm going to move to a state where it never falls below freezing, right? You said it gets to 30, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, once it gets below 32, it begins to freeze. But I guess that's not a big deal compared to I don't think it's ever been just 32 degrees. It's always been like -2, -15. So it gets bitter cold here.
Yeah. It doesn't get quite that cold here. Well, not over on the coast anyway. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, Shawn, you mentioned that we're going to be talking about changing seasons, kind of the changing rhythms of life as you enter new stages of life. And interestingly enough, we've both had some big changes and are looking at big changes from the last podcast we posted. So, this is exciting as you guys are going to
Yeah.
explore with us what it looks like to adapt to changing rhythms in life.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, what do you have coming up?
So I am now starting my practicum. So my title has changed from mental health practitioner to clinical trainee, right? And so the magical dust has been sprayed upon me. And so last week on the 25th, I was just a mental health practitioner. Then the weekend happened. Then Monday morning, the therapy fairies flew over my pillow and sprinkled dust on my head, and I woke up and I was a clinical trainee. So I can now start seeing clients. In my third year of my education to become a marriage and family therapist, and so I'm now seeing clients. I'm seeing clients now.
Mm-hmm.
My
So
first group,
very cool.
yeah.
And what's your focus going to be?
Uh, I believe my primary focus will be first responders,
Oh,
policemen, firemen, first responders. Because as a former police officer, I feel a special bond with those group of individuals still as a trainer, because I also still train law enforcement, fire, paramedics, and just de-escalation, conflict resolution, culture competency. So I've been doing that for like 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just BIPOC families. So as a person of color who realizes that we still live in a racialized society, that race plays a big deal. It plays a big factor in our lives. And then we still have issues of racism taking place
Mm-hmm.
with people, and that alone can be a major factor in someone's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm concerned about our local firemen, police officers, and the paramedics, and also uh, uh, Black folks, basically. Yeah. And you, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I've been in practice now for over a year, personal private practice, and my client load is full. I have one or two slots left for a couple of clients that I'm going to make room for, but um, I am really enjoying being able to sit and live life with people. It is just really enjoyable. And my clients let me into a space in their life that not a lot of other people get to see.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes a spouse, sometimes a really close family member, but for the most part, it's very, very a few people that get to be that close. And I'm just really enjoying that. And so I've enjoyed trying to fit my kids' schedule into my client schedule and make my client schedule fit with my kids. And so we've been doing lots of scheduling gymnastics. It was a little easier this summer because there's less driving and less um, just crazy. There is craziness in the summer, but it's a little different rhythm. And
Yeah.
I've put
Yeah.
a lot of emphasis on relaxing and moving slow through the summer because I know that the fall is coming and the fall has come. They start school on Wednesday. So, yeah, that has been my summer rhythm is trying to move at a slower pace and just kind of
Uh,
rejuvenate.
Gotcha. You made mention the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think there are multiple changes in our lives, in our seasons, our years. I think if we're going to be successful moving into another season, it's important that we understand the rhythm of the upcoming season
Mm-hmm.
and that we adjust to that as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Not rushing things, but we want to be able to adjust to the new rhythm. That way, we're not playing catch up to the new rhythm. And so, yeah, I find it very interesting that this is probably one of the very few years that I knew ahead of the game that I needed to make sure and catch a new rhythm. So, and I needed to be mindful of this because as a pastor and a professor, I still needed to do my internship. And I knew that if I didn't have things in order, that would be a problem. And so far, I've started off really good with getting my classes up earlier, uh, getting my sermons prepped earlier, and then doing all my homework. So it's been really good. So I'm feeling uh, well adjusted to the upcoming fall rhythm.
Mm. What did you do to transition into the new schedule? What kinds of actions did you take to get your rhythm going before it was actually demanded of you?
Gotcha. I think number one, I need to be aware that we're going to start playing on new sheet music. So again, if it was jazz or some other kind of an orchestra, I knew that we were going to be playing a new tune very soon, and that I normally don't jump ahead and be like, okay, we're going to do this new tune. I should start preparing myself, and so uh, by the end of June or the end of July, I started realizing, yep, the middle of September, the end of August is going to be a new thing. I had to prepare myself for what was going to start happening, and because the pattern happens over and over and over again each year. I knew these things are going to happen regardless. I need to start preparing for them earlier, uh, and that's what I did. So that's what I do. I thought that okay, I need to get ready earlier. And how about you? What'd you do as you recognize things were going to change for you?
Well, I think that my preparation for fall actually began about midway through July when I realized I'm still frantically moving about trying to get everything done. And I realized that I was going to waste my summer on frivolous busyness because that's what it felt like I needed to do. And I would get to the end of the summer and not be ready because I hadn't rested at all. And so about mid-July, when that realization, you guys are all probably laughing at me, but that realization finally hit me. You're not resting. I kind of intentionally erased some of the expectations of getting up early in the morning, of making sure I went to bed like I still wanted 8 hours of sleep, but if I moved it from 9 to 10, that was okay. It was okay to have a more leisurely feel to my summer so that I would be ready when the absolute, like, hour by hour scheduling had to occur in the fall. So now I'm right on the cusp of it. I have about 3 or 4 more weekdays where I'll have not too much going on, and then we'll jump into 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. constant scheduling. And so I'm still resting. I'm definitely taking some time this weekend to rest and then planning ahead on, okay, I know I'm going to have to get up at this time. I know I'm going to have to check my calendar the night before so that nothing hits me in the surprise. I know I'm going to have to glance at the coming week before I get to it so that I'm not surprised by anything. Those are kind of some of the steps that I'm taking to both
Yeah,
calm myself, to give myself some space to breathe, and to not dread the coming crazy as much as I was tempted to back in July.
yeah. So let me ask you this: uh, as you're preparing for the new rhythm, and I really appreciate you saying you look ahead the night before, you look at your calendar, look at the week ahead. How do you deal with the thing that you didn't plan that becomes critical? Like you're getting up in the morning and you're about to go out and you find out that you've got a flat tire, or your car stops at the grocery store, or I mean, how do you deal with those random things that take place in the midst of everything that's going on? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that my past, oh, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago would have been absolute panic, frustration, annoyance, and probably lashing out at whoever's around me. Um, and I didn't like that about myself. And so what I wound up implementing was the one step forward of taking the next best step. And I like that better because it not only it gives me space. I like the term space to breathe because that's what it feels like to me, of just instead of feeling like everything's crashing down on top of me, it feels more like I can take a minute, and it's it's maybe an unconscious now calming of my fight, flight, or freeze response, and just saying, okay, right here, right now, what is the next most important thing I need to do? So if it's a flat tire, the next most important thing to do is to figure out how to get the kids to school. And then the next most important thing to do after that is to call my clients and say, okay, I've gotten something that came up. I'm gonna have to push you to Friday, and normally they're all okay with that. Very understanding. I haven't run into any that aren't understanding. I think my kids would be the least understanding. Oh, mom, I needed to get to school for this project, or a friend they needed to see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm reminded of David Goggins,
Ooh, yes.
who says he does hard things every single day, just for the sole fact that when things happen outside of the norm, he's able to deal with them. And I think I personally adhere to that kind of an idea of you get up and you work out really hard, or you read something and you really push yourself, but you're constantly doing something uh, that's challenging to you. That when a challenge does present itself, you don't break yourself down and you're able to really cut through. And I like the idea that you said you put things in a priority, because sometimes people just get overwhelmed and they just freeze. Like, they're not going to fight, they're not going to flee. They have what's called a flop, or they just flop around, like, and so I think part of the issue is always challenging oneself, or challenging yourself to do something that's challenging, which might just mean setting your alarm clock 15 minutes early. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you bring up a really good point of when you're talking about doing something hard, so that when something hard comes along, you're already used to doing something hard. And that's one thing that I've really found, at least in my personal life, is there's a fair amount of stamina that you build by doing crazy schedules, or by doing hard things, by going to grad school, whatever it is you're doing. There's a fair amount of stamina that you build over time. And by the end of my grad school program, the assignments, the schedule, the work that it took to do what it takes to graduate wasn't as astounding. It was still butt-kickingly hard, but it wasn't as astounding as it is during that first week, where you're like, oh, I think I will die before I graduate.
Yep. Yep. Do hard things. So I've been listening to Jordan Peterson, someone who I don't agree with his political ideology, but I do believe that he's got some things that he says that are very significant to the human experience. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's kind of hard to hear him speak if you haven't got a very broad width of hearing data come in, because he can sound very linear in his ideology about men, women, issues of race. But again, being able to hear all he has to say, and then move it through. He talks about the idea of lowering your standards
Ooh,
that we are able to accomplish something. And I thought that it was kind of a big deal. It's monumental. So he talks about, if you want to create change in your life, you make these big goals, like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, I'm going to run. He talks about the idea of lowering that standard to just, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? I'm going to make my bed. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to make my bed. And again, it's the idea, well, that just seems so ridiculous. I make my bed, I could be doing more. If you could be doing more, you would do more. But you can't, or you won't, or whatever it is. So if you're able to lower your standard, I will have done a really good thing if I make my bed.
Mhm.
Do that for a week. And then afterwards, you go, oh, I'm going to make my bed and I'm going to not play video games for half the day, or I'm only going to do it for 2 hours. Again, it's just the idea that we know we need to change, because what we're doing is not appropriate to us, because we're in a new season. But if I can't do it all within a month, then I don't want to do it. And so the idea of lowering one's standard to where you can do it. You can do this thing. And then you're like, yes, I celebrate this. Then you don't stop. Next, whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I've had I can't even count how many clients have said that goal feels stupid, that making my bed, or for me it was a pile of papers I had to go through, and my therapist said just do one paper a day. And I was like, that's going to take 6 months. And he's like, well, then it'll be done in 6 months instead of what you're doing now is it's still going to be there in 6 months. And yes, doing one paper a day felt almost stupid, or just making the bed feels almost stupid. But the structure that it creates in your mind is a structure of accomplishment and a structure of pride in knowing and teaching your brain and your body, I can do this, and there's success built in, which is really cool as we're talking about starting new things, because so often we do have that New Year's resolution type ideal of, okay, I'm going to do all the things. And then, of course, you can't do all the things and you fail miserably and then you feel like a failure. But if you're going to just do the one little thing, it's easy almost to feel accomplished and feel capable and actually accomplish something. And yes, my pile of papers is gone.
No, right? I think that's the way to do it. Just a little bit at a time. It's the idea. There's a boulder in your pathway. You can't get over it. You can't get around it. What do? You chip off a little bit. You chip off a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and after a while, it's gone. Because again, it's not going to move. You can't lift it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sitting now pouting about it, won't really help you. But if you can literally chip away at it to where you chip it off to where it's soft, where you can go over it or lift it out of the way, that's a good thing. I think, I don't know where it is in our psyche. I don't know if it's because we are looking at exterior things, but it's always this idea of creating change within the new rhythm of life, that where we have to do it all or not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and most of us can't do it all. We can't do it all, period. And so when we fail, we're like, oh, well, we either minimize the goal. I said I was going to lose 30 pounds. I only lost 15. So it's okay. And you got to reduce that. Or you can just say, I'm only going to lose 5 pounds this month, and we're going to see what happens afterwards. It's just the idea of we have this mentality of it's got to be all or nothing. And I don't know where this binary mindset that we have of it's up or down, left or right, yes or no, doesn't really match the human experience as we're navigating life.
Yeah, we've tried so long to force ourselves into a right or wrong, or a left or right, or a this decision or that decision, that we've missed all the other options and all the gray areas of um, life that actually cuts our ability to navigate life by, I mean, what is that? Probably a huge percentage piece. I don't have all the numbers and I'm not ever going to go into statistics. So somebody smarter than I will have to figure out how much of our options we limit when there's only two choices. Whereas when we start to, and this is the language I use with my clients of, let's play around with it for a while. And it's amazing how scary that is for people, that the playing doesn't have any structure and there isn't a this or a that. And when we start to do that, we start to be able to build in creativity and build in greater options and like open up ideas that we would have never had when we were tied to just this or that.
I completely agree. I think that the word you used was creativity. and creativity cannot be boxed in yes or no, up or down. It's both. It's both and. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea of being as creative as I can be, or you can be, or they can be, in setting up new structures will sometimes look very, very conservative. Other times it'll look very liberal. But again, it'll always be very creative. And I think that's something that we 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 lack the insight on how to tap our creative selves because it's already in us, right? And so I believe that we are creative beings, however you want to say that, the great I am, the great spirit, God, Jehovah, however you want to call it. I mean, whatever your mechanism is, we were created in an image to create things. But we've moved out of our morality to ethics. And when you deal with ethics, you're always dealing with should you not? That's it. Ethics are are yes, no.
Mm.
Morality is good and bad. Right? So we live in a world in which we've had ethics that were legal, but went against the human condition. Like we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Those guys own slaves, and so again, that was just thinking based upon ethics. But again, morality would be like, no, you can't do it, you can't do it to another human being. So we've lost our abilities to be moral. We've given it up because ethics are easy. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Period.
Mm.
Left or right, pick one. And again, what about the middle? Nope. And this is probably the reason why we're in this such as turmoil in our political ideology now, because you only have two choices: the left or the right side. There is no middle because
Mm-hmm.
both sides will cancel you out if you pick the middle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying that um when you're forced to pick either right or wrong or good or bad, you're missing the nuances of life and being able to see. So yeah, sometimes situations are really complicated and sometimes it requires more thought, more energy, more time, more listening to people to see what a good way forward might be.
yeah. Especially nowadays when we're looking at, I don't know when we will be past. We'll get literally say we're post COVID now, right? But again, uh, when will we be able to say in a post COVID society that we are doing things that are more holistic
Mm-hmm.
and not just picking a left or right or good or bad, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, um, spaghetti. You're gonna make your favorite spaghetti dish. The idea of saying is it good or bad, yes or no, those words don't really exist when you're creating something new. It's either it needed more salt. That's not a good or bad thing. It's next time I'll make more salt.
Mm-hmm.
There's this awesome middle that we tend to avoid because again, it requires us to think, to be more creative.
Yeah, it takes more time, more energy, and there's way more room for messiness.
Yeah,
Well, and I think about that as it relates to changing rhythms in life and changing relationships in life. And that's where the work can get exhausting sometimes, is as we're adjusting to a new rhythm, we don't have everything set and and defined, and it has to be a messy middle as we're preparing. And yeah, like we were talking about earlier, there's huge things you can do to prepare for your transition, but still the transition is messy.
yeah. Yeah, I'm reminded of the creation story. And as you hear about the creation story, the word that's used to define uh, the world is chaos. But
Mm,
chaos isn't described as good or bad. It is what it is. There's this chaotic thing going on in the whole entire world. And then God comes in and he creates Eden, which Eden is paradise, which then balances. You get this balance within the chaos. And I think that's what our responsibility is, that we are to create order amongst the chaos. I mean, again, so chaos isn't good or bad. It happens. It's this rotating, chaotic world, right? Life isn't good or bad. It's how you respond to it. And you, as a human, are responsible to create order or a paradise for yourself that you can navigate the chaotic world in which you live in, which means as the changes, as each season happens, I need to be able to play music.
mm-hmm,
Good jazz music can
mm,
never be repeated within that same season. You can't repeat it again.
mm.
Even if you were to write down all the notes that were done, it wouldn't be the same the next season.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, I love that metaphor of you get this beautiful song once and you never get it again. And the same is with is with your own human experience. You are uniquely you in all of history, present and past and future. And so what you bring to your transitions, into your relationship, into your seasons is something that is totally unique.
Yeah. But I have
All
a question for you.
okay.
Okay, so if you were to give someone let's reduce it to 3 steps.
Okay.
3 steps and how to prepare for a new season. What would be the three? I mean, there's multiple categories underneath each step, but
Yeah.
what would be the three main categories that you would say you have to do these 3 things to navigate the next season well?
Okay. Number one, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That would be just knowing that being uncomfortable is not necessarily going to kill you. It's hard, it's difficult, and it's also not bad. Number two, preparation, getting yourself as ready as you possibly can. And number three, flexibility. How about you? What would your three be?
Number one, I would say embrace the suck, same as yours. Prepare for things to suck for you. And again, it doesn't have to be good or bad, but you blow a tire, that sucks. It'd be better not to have a blown tire. But again, embrace the suck. Number two, prep time, right? Or boot camp, right? You need to prepare for what's going to take place. And number three, I would just say, again, like you said, flexible. I just be open and creative to doing new things. Like number one, embrace the suck. Number two, prepare for whatever's going to take place. Number three, be open and creative to what's going to happen next. If you
Yeah.
do those 3 things, you will have a good standing in this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A good standing to be creative in whatever comes.
Yeah,
Well, Shawn, this has been wonderful to be back together with you.
it
This
has
is
been.
awesome. Oh, what a gift it is to go through this with you.
Indeed, it's good. It's good. I look forward to the next one.
Me too. All right. We'll
All
talk to
right.
you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.